Hey, my fellow Fright Fiends. I just wanted to do this little intro before this video. I appreciate everybody clicking on this video and supporting my channel. Really means a lot to me, and I want to wish everyone a very happy Halloween. Happy Halloween 2025. I wanted to do this video paying tribute to The Curse of Michael Myers, which just celebrated its 30th anniversary on September 29th. I initially had wanted to do it for September, but then I felt like it was a perfect Halloween video for my channel for this year. I always do something special for Halloween. I'm very happy to share this with everyone. It was a lot of fun putting together. And not only do I talk about the significance of the film, how it impacted me, what my first thoughts were on it, watching it for the first time as a 21-year-old kid back in 1995, but also just how the franchise was very different for me after it came out because of the loss of Donald Pleasence. And, 30 years later, this past April, I lost my grandmother, who was such a big supporter of mine. She's really she was kind of my horror buddy, if people can believe that. But yeah, she passed away on April 3rd, and it's really been hard not having her here. And this is the first Halloween without her. And growing up, she made this holiday so special for me. She helped my mom make a lot of my costumes when I was a kid. She always was, someone that didn't make me feel strange for liking the things that I liked. In fact, she's the reason I love the Halloween franchise as well as Salem's Lot. The Void is just massive right now. It's like the Grand Canyon for me. So I miss her terribly. So not only is this video a tribute to this film, and also the ties that the franchise and my grandmother and I had. I go into some details on that. So I hope everyone enjoys this video for Halloween 2025 from the Horror Zone, and I promise I will talk to you guys again real soon. So take it easy, and here we go.
BoogeyMan band coming round the bend. Is BoogeyMan band. Is BoogeyMan band.
Greetings, my fellow Fright Fiends. Thanks so much for stopping by the Horror Zone channel. I hope everyone's doing well. Today's video is something that I had wanted to do back in September, but because September was such a crazy month with work and family stuff, and the fact that I went on vacation to meet up with my friends in Ferndale the week of the 22nd through the 26th, I just didn't have a chance to talk about this, but a film that really had a huge impact on my life, for better and for worse in some ways, celebrated its 30th anniversary on September 29th of this year, and that is Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers. I saw this film in the theater when it opened on September 29th, 1995. I was 21 years old. I was working at Round Table Pizza. I was going to community college at the time, and I was a huge fan of the Halloween franchise. Now, prior to this, we hadn't had a Halloween movie in 6 years. The last one came out in 1989. That, of course, was Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers, which even as a 15-year-old kid watching that film for the first time, I had mixed feelings about. I love that Donald Pleasence was in it. I love that Danielle Harris and Ellie Cornell were in it as Jamie and Rachel. I thought Don Shanks was a good Michael Myers. There were some elements of it I think really worked greatly. I think the atmosphere was great. I think the look of it is awesome. There was just some character decisions and the overall execution of the film that I never was crazy about. I had been fearful at the time that it was going to be the final film of Donald Pleasence. There had been rumors that this mysterious man in black character, as everyone knows, was going to be showing up in Halloween 5. And of course, we see him in various moments throughout that film. But he was going to be taking over for Loomis, and that Loomis was going to die at the end of Halloween 5. And you kind of think that that's what happens. But then, this one was kind of in development hell for a while, but then, the rumors were that it was going to start shooting. And again, back then we didn't have IMDb, this is the 90s. We didn't have all of this access to what movies are filming and when, but I remember there was a segment on a television show called Entertainment Tonight. There was a set visit, and it showed Donald Pleasence. And I believe they showed images of Paul Rudd. Of course, they showed Michael Myers, and that they were filming. They were filming a new Halloween film. And I was so excited. I knew that they were shooting again in Salt Lake City. And to see Donald Pleasence going back to being this character again, this character that I adored, favorite characters of all time in cinema history, and one of my favorite actors of all time. So I was so excited to see him come back. And then the sad news was that on the 5th of February, Donald Pleasence died. I was devastated by the news of Donald Pleasence's passing. And I knew in my heart of hearts that the Halloween franchise would never be the same without him, at least for me. So, you know, following, you know, just Fangoria magazine, that was my sort of window into film production, horror film production. I was seeing images from the film. I noticed that they had recast the Jamie Lloyd character. Of course, J.C. Brandy would play her in Curse of Michael Myers. And noticed that they were bringing Tommy Doyle back. I didn't know who Paul Rudd was at the time, Paul Stephen Rudd, but I didn't know who he was. But I was excited. I said, "Oh, this is cool. They're bringing some older characters back." You know, Tommy Doyle hadn't been in the movies since, you know, the brief moment you see him at the beginning of Halloween 2. So I was really curious, like, what this movie would be like, and maybe, you know, see the passing of the torch from Loomis to Tommy. I had no idea. So sitting down in the theater on September 29th of 1995, and I was late to see it. I was coming from college, and I remember I got to the theater late. The movie had already started. I picked it up right at the scene where Jamie is driving away from where she was being held captive, and she is driving to the bus station. So it was right around that point that I stepped into this film. And I was confused a little bit by what was going on. And, you know, the dispatch of Jamie Lloyd pissed me off and still pisses me off 30 years later. I hated the way that she was killed off in both cuts, but primarily the director's cut, the theatrical release. I hated the way that character was disrespected. And people can follow, you know, there's a lot of stories about what happened there. Even Daniel Harris has talked about it in a segment that was on the box set that Scream Factory put out, where she talks, it was Jamie's story about what happened. But I hated the way that character was treated. I did like some things about this film. I did love that George Wilbur had come back to play Michael Myers, with the exception of the reshot ending, which was he was played by A. Michael Lerner. I thought he looked cool as Michael Myers again. I thought the mask looked great. I thought Paul Rudd was good in it, even though there was moments where I thought he overacted a little bit, especially in the reshot ending. I thought Marion Hagen, who nobody really talks about, did a great job as Kara. I love that character. And I also thought that Mitchell Ryan was really creepy as Dr. Wynn. I love the scene in the Blankenship house where Mrs. Blankenship is telling the story. You know, it's really, really creepy, and I love that Michael was in the background. Of course, who can't say enough great things about Donald Pleasence as Dr. Loomis? And unfortunately, in the theatrical cut, they cut a lot of his screen time down. I didn't like that. I did like that the character was more kind of grounded than as opposed to how manic he was in Halloween 5. I thought they overdid it a little bit in that. And that's no fault of Donald Pleasence's. That's just what he was required to do in that film. But you know, you could tell that Donald Pleasence didn't feel great in this film. I know he had heart valve replacement surgery, and his passing was complications from that. But he still gives it his all. But you know, even as watching the film as a 21-year-old kid, I'm watching it, and I just didn't like the way it was going. I felt the movie was choppy. I didn't like the flashy effects that it had in it with regards to the editing. I thought Alan Howarth's score with the guitar sort of riffs that you would hear every once in a while was just a little too over the top, and I hated the ending. I hate the theatrical cut ending. To this day, it's still just disappoints me and pisses me off because there's no final confrontation between Michael and Loomis. And I know it wasn't planned that Donald Pleasence was going to pass away, but they could have done something. They could have done something. That ending is terrible. Just Tommy beating Michael with the pipe. It just made no sense. And then you just hear Loomis screaming and Michael's mask is laying on the ground. I'm like, what the hell does that mean? Even a woman in the theater, I still remember her saying, she's like, I really like the other movies so much more than this one. And I'm like going, yeah, it doesn't make any sense. And then I kept saying, did I miss something? Because I was late to the theater. So I went and saw it again. A couple days later, went and saw the movie again, you know, saw it from the beginning and was still just as disappointed. But, you know, looking back on it now, and I've already talked about the film so many times on this channel. I've done rankings of the timelines. I did a 25th anniversary video for the film and talked about all the elements about it, showed all the different versions of it I had. I did a ranking of it back in 2011 with the different franchises. I did one in 2013 for Michael Voorhees, where I talked about, you know, how I would rank every film in the Halloween franchise. So I've done that to death, and I'm trying not to repeat myself. To this day, I will say 100% I never watched the theatrical cut. I love the producer's cut. Yes, it's not perfect, but it is more of a, I feel like it's a more well-rounded film. Sans a couple scenes. There's one scene in the theatrical cut that I love, and that is the scene where Michael kills Beth. And I think that is very scary, and that is where that slow-mo effect that they did with the theatrical cut works. But I prefer everything else about the producer's cut. There's more Loomis. I feel like, even though I didn't like the fact that they killed Jamie Lloyd, I think it's a little bit more respectful, if you can say that. I still hate that they killed that character. And I think the ending works better. It's a haunting ending, because Loomis is cursed at the end. You know, the Dr. Wynn character curses him with Thorn, and he, you know, is screaming at the end. So that's where the scream came from at the end of the theatrical cut, where it didn't make any sense. And then you just see Michael walking off in the Man in Black's outfit. Now, a lot of it doesn't make any sense, but at least it sort of goes, you're kind of going, okay, what does this mean for the next movie? Where are they going to go with this? And we'll never know, because they never made it. And I'm so grateful that the producer's cut did get an official release. I'm grateful for Scream Factory for finally being the first studio to put it out in a crystal clear, beautiful presentation back in 2014. That was probably one of the most exciting moments I had, was watching that for the first time and not having the grainy VHS tape, or the sort of grainy, but you know, I did have a DVD of it that I got in 2003 off of onegoodscare.net, and it sort of took the clean footage from the director's or the theatrical cut and spliced it into the producer's cut, so it wasn't as hard to watch, because that videotape, you couldn't see really much of anything. But that was my first eBay purchase. My first eBay purchase was the producer's cut VHS back, and I think I got it in late January, early February of 2000. So it's pretty crazy. But for me, what I want to say about this film is that this was the end of an era for me in terms of the Halloween franchise. As much as I love the films that have come after it, and I think H20 is one that I loved at first and then I didn't like as much, but now since the David Gordon Green stuff has come out, I've had a bigger appreciation for Halloween H20, and I do like the David Gordon Green films, but I really do like H20 a lot. Resurrection, a lot of people can, you know, talk shit about it. There's so many people that don't like it. My late grandmother, who passed away this year, who was my heart, and who loved the Halloween franchise just as much as I did. She's the reason I love these films. I took her to see Halloween H20 and Halloween Resurrection in the theater, and I still remember at one point in Halloween Resurrection when the scene where the character Sarah is trying to hide from Michael Myers. I remember my grandmother saying, "This is a really good movie. This is really scary. It'll live with me forever." And so I can't hate that movie because my grandmother enjoyed it. I love the Rob Zombie films. I love his Halloween 2 the best. And out of the David Gordon Green films, what might surprise people is the one that I kind of ranked the lowest is now my favorite. Halloween Kills, I absolutely love. I watched that movie probably more than any of them. But the franchise was never the same to me after this one. And I think it's because it lost its Captain Ahab. It lost the person that was hunting and trying to stop Michael Myers, and that is Dr. Loomis. Donald Pleasant's passing, you can't fill that. Even Malcolm McDowell, who did a commendable job, especially, and I didn't care for the way the character was portrayed in Halloween 2, but in Halloween, the Rob Zombie film, I thought he did a commendable job, and he had never seen the original Halloween. He had nothing to compare it to in terms of how he depicted the character of Loomis. But without Loomis, the Halloween franchise has never been the same for me. As much as I love them, as much as I still watch them, like I said, Kills is one of my favorite movies. Halloween 3, which has no ties to Michael Myers, is another one of my favorite films. And that's a film that I did not care for growing up because Michael Myers wasn't in it. But now I absolutely love it. I mean, I'm sporting it right now. But this is when the franchise changed for me. And pretty much, it's like it's never been the same. It never will be the same. 30 years later, I still miss Donald Pleasence terribly. He was a huge part of my childhood, much like a lot of the actors in Salem's Lot. A lot of them have passed on as well. Salem's Lot and the Halloween franchise are all tied to my grandmother, and my grandmother's gone now. So it's been a hard year. I don't want to get emotional, but these people, they touched me as a kid. They connected. There was a connection between them, and there was a connection that I felt watching these films and loving these characters. And the fact that my grandmother and I had this connection to the Halloween films and Salem's Lot and even the Psycho films. I mean, she was the only one that really accepted the fact that I liked what I liked. And that's no disrespect to anybody else in my family, but my grandmother got me. And I think why I've had such a hard time this year is that the one person that got me my whole life is gone. And I'm alone now with, just sort of being the oddball that I am. Even though I know there's people that support me and I have some terrific friends and wonderful family members, the person that got me all my life isn't here anymore. And she's so tied to these films for me. And the fact that she loved them and would watch them with me. I showed her Halloween Kills. She never got to see Halloween Ends, but I showed her Halloween Kills back in 2022 when it was out on Blu-ray. And I'm grateful that we got to watch that together. And I'm grateful that she introduced me to the films that I love so much. And for some reason, I will always associate the Donald Pleasence, Dr. Loomis character with my grandmother. I think it's just because she loved his moral compass. She loved what he represented. And without that, the franchise just felt like it was always missing something for me. And that has never changed. So I felt that was the reason why I needed to pay respects to this film. In a year where I lost my grandmother, and 30 years after we got this film and 30 years after Donald Pleasence left us, I just wanted to say something about this and how I felt about the film, why I feel the way I do about it, and why I feel the way I do about the franchise after we lost what I feel is the most important element, and that being the late, great Donald Pleasence. So that's going to be it. Wanted to make sure I talked about the film. Curious what other people think about Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers. Do you prefer the theatrical cut? Do you like the producer's cut more? Leave some thoughts down in the comment section below. Would love to hear from everyone. And as always, thanks so much for stopping by the Horror Zone channel. I hope everyone's doing well. I promise I'll talk to you again real soon. Take it easy, stay scared as always, and remember, you can't kill the boogeyman.